Back in the garage today, back in the garage today. Back in the garage today, working on my 2008 KTM 990 Adventure. You guys may have seen on Instagram a few weeks ago, Tyler and I were out riding our 990s and my clutch went out. So had nearly 50,000 miles on the OEM clutch. We're putting another OEM back in it. So I got a lot of other work that I want to do to the bike, but I want to go ahead and get the clutch done first before I start disassembling everything else. So let's hop into it. All right, so starting out over here on the right-hand side of the bike, we obviously need to remove the brake lever to give us some clearance to get the clutch cover off. We're going to use a 5mm hex right here. Pull this off. We might have to disconnect this spring that sits back behind here. We'll find out in a second. All right, so when you pull that bolt out, there is a little shoulder here. It's going to go back in. You can see this just dropped down out of the rear master cylinder there. You could take the spring off if you wanted to, but everything's dropped down out of the way. So now we're going to grab a 8mm T-handle and start getting these bolts around here removed. And with all the bolts removed, we can pop the cover off. Oh my God, the thing is roached. All right, so with the clutch cover removed, now we're going to start to loosen up these bolts. So we got to do that in a crisscross fashion. So we'll go here, 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 here. I'm just going to go ahead and break them all loose first, and then start to take them all the way out. Just be mindful your springs are sitting right behind here. Alright, we should be able to pull this outer plate off. Now it's a simple matter of just sliding out our liners and plates. Okay, so I've got all the linings and plates out. Now I want you guys to see there is a spring washer here that I just pulled out for your view, and there's another seal ring in the back. These don't really have to come off because I'm not replacing them. Let me show you the parts I've got and what we need to do next before we can start reassembly. Alright, so this is our main batch of lining discs. You can tell we got the entire pack here. You should be able to see the part number on there. This is the first set of parts we're going to need. Next up, we have our pack of steel discs. I'm going to go ahead and replace all of those as well. You can see my name on there a bunch of times. Anyway, that's what we're looking at right there. And as you can see at the beginning, there's the part number. Here's the part number for new springs. I didn't know what kind of shape the old ones were in, and since we were going to have it apart, figured I might as well pick up a new set. So we got another set of springs here. Obviously need 6 of them. And then these are the last 2 linings, so you can see the part number, and I'll put all the parts numbers on the screen and in the description below. This one is a little bit different than the other batch, and you can see I wrote inside on it because when we go to reassemble this, this will be the first one that goes in, followed by all the rest of the discs and linings. So then this one is our final lining. The inside and outside were a little bit different diameter or a little bit different thickness than the rest of them. You can see I wrote outside on it. That means when we reassemble, this will be the last one that goes in, so it'll be closest to the outside, just to help me remember. Hopefully we can focus in enough there. This was the clutch we just took out, or at least the linings. This thing was cooked, which explains why it didn't want to send any power to the rear wheel. Now the one thing we need to do before we start reassembly is soak these discs in some oil. We don't want to put them in dry. We do want to bathe them in some oil, so I'm going to do that off screen. Once they're bathed in some oil, we'll get our stack together and then start reassembling this clutch, and then hopefully it'll work. Alright, you can see we've got all the disc linings all soaked in oil. If you get confused, these obviously, this outer ring or inner ring has a different color. I haven't done the outer one, so I don't get it confused yet, but it's definitely different than this. So all we're going to do is replicate our stack that we have over here, just alternating between the metal disc and the fiber discs, and just make sure that your spring washer and stuff is pushed back into place, and we should be good to go. So let's start putting it together. All right, so just a reminder, make sure your inner disc goes in first, and then we're going to alternate between the metal ones and the fiber ones. And then last but not least, we have our outer disc to pop into place. Okay, so next up we need to get our outer plate in place. Now something to be aware of is it does have these little teeth that need to be lined up. Obviously you got to line up the holes. I'm just going to set it in place for just a second. At which point then we put the springs into place. I'm using the new ones. If you're using your old ones, use those. And then we've got our washer and bolt that goes into place. We're going to tighten it up once again in a crisscross fashion once we get them all started. And then we're going to torque these down to 10 Newton meters. Alright, so with our new linings, plates, everything put in, next thing we need to do is put the cover back on. There is a gasket on the back of this. Just inspect it, make sure it's not torn or anything because you don't want to have any leaks. And then we're going to get this slapped back on here. Remember, the long bolt goes up here. Last thing we need to do is get our brake lever reattached. So with the way I got mine off, I'm just going to feed this up into the bottom of the master cylinder, get this back in place, and then not forget we do have this collar on this bolt, and this is a 5mm hex once again. Okay, so we get the brake pedal back on. I'll put the torque spec up on the screen for this. Make sure it is operational. I can feel it locking up on the rear, so we're good. If you need to adjust it, if you want to adjust the height of the pedal, you've got this option here on this 4 hex. As you rotate this up or around, it'll raise or lower it. Now we're going to go up and check the feel on the clutch lever and see how it's doing. Feels a lot better. I have to take it out for a little test ride, see how she does. Alright guys, so as you can see, my bike actually runs again because the clutch works and we can get power to the rear wheel, which is a great thing because it means I can ride my 990 again. So not necessarily the most difficult job. It's fairly straightforward. You just need the parts, which aren't that cheap, but if you want your bike to run, you really don't have a choice. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, considering that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, well, this is the place to be. If you have any questions about the job, the process, anything along the way that maybe I glossed over, you need a little more detail, let me know down in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.